Happy day, everyone. And I say happy day because every day, on some levels, we should experience some happiness. Now, the reason for part of my happiness is I was able to catch up with a longtime friend who we had started talking more on a frequent basis, but over the last maybe 3 weeks to a month, we really hadn't been in touch. So today was an opportunity for us to really catch up. And I'm always grateful because we talk about some real things, and I hope that everybody has that friend, family member, coworker, somebody that you can really have some real life talks with, whether it's about parenting, whether it's just about your sex life, whether it's about your finances, anything that you can just be completely open and honest with somebody, and that it is in confidence, it's not going to be used against you at some point in time later on, and it actually bears fruit in the way of possible solutions or things that you can do to possibly correct the situation, or if you just need to be heard out. So I'm very grateful. Thank you, Lisa. It means a lot to have such a long-standing friendship and a really tight one as well. Part of what we talked about today, I'm not going to get into, but anytime I'm speaking with her or some of my other good friends that I have that circle with, I'm able to sometimes feel like I can say something in a moment where I'm like, I need to capture that and utilize it at a different time. And what we were talking about was people going through therapy. And I had shared, as far as without going too much, I had shared about knowing somebody who was in therapy but was not really doing the work. They were going to a therapist, but they weren't reading the assignments that they were given. They weren't being fully transparent. And so therefore, it's really kind of like going to a dentist, maybe, once for your cleaning, but you're really not brushing or flossing or doing the things that you're supposed to really get the best results on that next checkup. So what I had said is you really want to be able to do the work, and in that moment, you can learn to be more reflective than projective. Now, reflective, what do we have with reflective? Definition: providing a reflection capable of reflecting light or other radiation. That's really not what we're talking about. That's like a glass or a mirror. This one, relating to or characterized by deep thought, thoughtful. And the example, a quiet, reflective, astute man. You're thinking about what's going on with inside of you. You're reflecting, you're seeing. So the first definition, in a different sort of way, definitely could have that meaning, like a mirror, if you are seeing yourself. And that's really what we want when we're talking about being able to improve upon ourselves, utilize therapy, take things away from good talks that you have with friends, family, or whoever, is to be able to be reflective. Because reflective means we're starting from within, and that's where it's all going to start. You've heard the saying, things don't change until you change your mind. Your mind starts from within. Things won't change if somebody else tries to change your mind for you. You will only get there when you are ready to. So be reflective. That means start looking inside. That's where the answers are going to be. You can start really by just, asking questions of self. And it's going to take a lot, because what we're talking about in this moment is some real accountability. And a lot of times our reflectiveness is going to see that we made some really not good choices, and that's possibly why we are searching for answers or solutions to traumas or just issues that we may have gotten ourselves into. So reflective, not projective. Projective, geometry, relating to or derived by projection. It's really not it. Psychology, relating to the unconscious transfer of one's own desires or emotions to another person. That's what we're talking about. We want to be reflective, look inward rather than projective and say it's your fault. It happened because that happened. We all have gone through some things in life, some worse than others. And the problem is there's no real way. We don't want to get into a victim Olympics, so to speak, to say I suffered more, suffered less, or you didn't suffer as much as I did. We don't want to get into that. What we want to do is, again, be reflective. Now, a lot of things are not within our power. Things have happened to us that we did not choose to have happen. And that a lot of times is a whole different level. But in that moment, you can still be reflective and say, how am I going to choose to deal with this? I can't control, none of us can control what happens to the world around us, in the world around us, and sometimes to us. But what we can control is how we respond to it. So, do we want to project and say, I had a bad day because that person cut me off in traffic, or my boss is such a jerk, or I can't believe my significant other, you fill in the blank, said such so and so. You may have came home and found them, in bed with somebody else. But again, you can project that onto them and say, well, that was your fault. And maybe that's not the greatest example, but the point is, we can be reflective and say, okay, what can I do about this? It may not always be about getting an answer, but it might just be about controlling your emotion, knowing your emotional intelligence, your IQ when it comes to that, to be able to keep yourself in the best possible place in that moment. I'm not saying you have to take it on the chin and be, a saint about it, but you really don't want to, do anything that's going to put yourself in harm or in some sort of legal trouble or harm others because of it. In that moment, you can channel in some of the tools and say, okay, this isn't what I wanted to walk in on. This isn't what I wanted to come home to. I didn't want to get fired today. I did not want to get into that fender bender or be cut off and have somebody, give me a 4-letter chorus or anything along those lines. But again, we can be reflective and just say, okay, what can I do about that? Rather than projective and say, they are the reason that the rest of my day is terrible. We can get past a lot of things. Now, again, sometimes those aren't the easiest examples, but what about just something about, let's say you're pretty bad in debt with your credit, and it's just expenditures, that you made for yourself. Well, if it wasn't for my friends wanting me to go out, I wouldn't have spent that. Or I really needed that new car, and that salesman, I know that he overcharged me, or any of those things. Those are projections. We need to be reflective and say, I should have had more self-control. I really wanted that car. My car right now it's really beating me down. It's not the car that I want right now. It's riding pretty rough, things like that. But I didn't have to buy that car. I could have said no to my friends. And I didn't have to go out and go on that vacation or continue to go out to places to entertain myself when I know I needed the discipline. Discipline is also on another level. When you look at that scale, how do you feel when you see yourself straight out of the shower and you step in front of that mirror, birthday suit, head to toe? Is it because somebody wanted to take you out to dinner a bunch of times? Is it because somebody kept bringing you cake? Is it because at your office they have donuts every morning? That's the projection. Or is it just reflective and just say, I just didn't go when I knew I should have been going to the gym. I didn't put down that extra helping of something when I knew that I should have. I knew I should have drank more water, but instead I was drinking soda, energy drinks, alcohol, you name it. How can we dial in the ability to be more reflective as our first instinct rather than projective? A lot of time it's probably in our human nature to want to not experience our own fault. But if we can train ourselves to do a lot of other things that can control ourselves, even in spite of our biology, like not punching people at first thought, not fighting with people, not just sleeping with whoever because in the name of male biology, it's in our nature to spread our seed. There's a lot of things that we have overcome and overlearned or learned in spite of what our biology is said to be. So how is that? The first thing that I would really look to suggest is really getting to know yourself. Be able to be comfortable with seeing your own faults and being able to speak to them. It's okay to be, because we're all flawed. We all have those things that We just aren't, it's not our strong suit. And without that, you have no balance. If it was just strong with everything, then the week would just fall off and you'd be out of balance. You have to be in balance. So there are things that we can just admit and honestly admit, not just, well, yeah, I'm a bit of a blabbermouth, or yeah, I'm a straight shooter. I just tell it how it is. And if I say it that way, well, it's not talking about just that way. It's really understanding it and not even having to express it to other people at times. It's just knowing that this isn't my best suit. So working on that is a great piece to being able to be reflective rather than just projective. Accountability. And this is one that I've gone through probably in the last 6 months in some relationships and things like that, where accountability can really be the ruin for a lot of things because ego comes into play. So what we're looking at is knowing in the heat of an argument, things sometimes do get said, or debate, or difference of opinion, however you want to call it. But we have to understand that that's okay as well. But we also can take accountability for what was said, possibly our role in it, because it does take two. So what was our role in that? And how can we accept that, take accountability? Sometimes, the apology is necessary. And more importantly, the ability to accept an apology is really key. And being genuine in it, not just, okay, well, no, really, okay, you know what? I get it. It wasn't our best moment, but I appreciate the apology, offer one if one is needed, and go from there. Because that, again, the ability to pull an apology out, a genuine one, allows that you have been reflective rather than continue, no, but you said, and then I said because you said. It's not where we want to be. We really want to be able to be at a point where we are able to talk to ourselves and really, coach ourselves up sometimes. And outside of having a therapist, your good friends, whoever else, or even just the person that just walks by and happens to just drop a lifetime jewel on you in the form of advice or something. Be inside yourself first and be able to see what it is. And with that reflectiveness, I do believe that you will get to a point where you're even proactive rather than reactive, which is an even better place. So now you are seeing things that now I'm ready. It's kind of like a chess match. Well, I know that this happens if I do that, so I'm going to do this instead. And it avoids all of that other stuff that you have to then get reflective, then take accountability, then apologize, then accept. Let's try to move past those to where you can just not be above it in a more like I'm better than that sort of way, but just, you know what, I'm really not about that. I don't want to be on that wavelength with you. I don't want to be on that wavelength with myself. I have to be the best representative. I have to be a better version of myself. And sometimes that doesn't always work, and that is okay, because what do we call fail? The acronym, first attempt in learning. So a lot of times those lessons don't stick the first time. That's okay. Keep revisiting them. It's the same way you would with the math book or something like that. You don't get that, so you go back and you read it again, and you go back and you go back and you read it again until it snaps and you get it. Now you're just whipping through those equations because you understood it, because you kept going back to it. Your first time in class, you're not always going to pick something up. That's what the textbook is for. You go through it in a repetitive nature. You keep going through those steps. It is okay to continue to go through the same steps. It is it's necessary. It's necessary to do that. Think of it as fitness. If you want to get better you want to run a marathon, you don't just hop up and run 24 miles once. Very few people could accomplish that. Very few people. And I don't know any that could just hop up off the couch dry and just run 24 miles. It's not a common thing to do. What that speaks to is saying you have to get up, you go get the right shoes, you start reading on possibly running, knowing hydration tips, things like that. You run that first day and you go home and you're sore, you stretch it out, soak in the Epsom salts, and then you start building. And more, those shoes break down, you get another pair, you get better running shoes, you get the shirts that don't chafe your nipples. There's all sorts of things. You wear the hats for sun blockage, sunscreen. You're using all of these tools, and at the same time, every day you're running, and you're running a little bit more, further, and that's you on your journey. You just come to a point where you put the work in and you're honest with yourself. And that will allow you to be honest with others around you. And that's a beautiful place to be. Doesn't mean you'll always be there. Sometimes we do have those slip ups because there's a good chance at most of our ages we have been in a state of sometimes projection more than reflection. So that's going to be a lifelong thing that you'll always be working at, trying to just say, I'm going to get better, I'm going to get better, I'm going to get better, because those instincts will be there that that's what you've been doing for such a long time. It's like if you ever move to another house, might be just a block away, but how long before you actually stop turning towards your old house, or when the year starts over, it's a new year and you're still writing last year's year, like, oh, and you got to scratch it out and start over and put it over. It's because it's a habit. The beautiful part about this is each day is a different day, so you don't have to wait for a year to start it over. So it does give more opportunities for advancement, but greater chance for errors as well. But we are supposed to have those ebbs and flows. We want to really look at ourselves in our moments. And because most of us don't live a crazy life that something's different every day. Like for myself, I go to work, I come home, I go pick up my daughter, I work out. Most of my steps are very similar. There's a lot of continuity in what my day looks like. And that allows us to really be able to say, I'm going to study because there's this one sticking point with something here. What is it about that point that really irritates me? What about that point pulls out a reaction from me that I don't really care for? What about that person that does that? How can I, rather than say that person, that scenario, that place at work, that long lunch line, how can I say, what can I do about that? How can I find peace in those moments? How can I be a better version of myself in those moments? Not give that person that energy, not give away my energy. It's not even them taking it. I'm giving it to them, because if I don't allow these things to get to me, then I'm not giving away the energy. And again, I'm not perfect. I give away energy quite a bit sometimes because it's just where I'm at now. A lot of times I feel that it's necessary just to blow off the steam or whatever, practice the delayed gratification, but let me give away my energy in the form of a workout, not stewing about that person or that long lunch line or this traffic or anything else. Let's try to refocus where we're going to channel these energies. And again, when you can refocus, that's coming from within. That's not somebody else telling you how to find that energy or where to put it. You can have suggestions, again, the therapist, the friends, the family, but you're ultimately going to have to do it. You will have to do the work. Somebody can show you, somebody can tell you, anything along those lines, whether it's the math example, whether it's the marathon example, any of those things. But until you change your mind and decide to do it, nothing else will change. You can go through the steps, but it won't actually take the way that it could once you actually click your mind, put the dedication and discipline into actually studying. Look, a lot of people, a lot of you, very accomplished in your jobs, very accomplished in school, very accomplished in athletics, in your relationships, whatever it is. So sometimes there's pieces that we can just say, we need to work a little bit more on that. And that's okay. And even if you're high level on all of those areas, I'm sure you would strive to be a little more high level. So it's okay. So I say all of that to say, I would love to hear from you guys. Ace up the sleeve, advice, comment, experience in the chats. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you have not yet. And I hope this finds everybody in a place of total health, mind, body, and soul. And we'll see you guys soon. Peace, love, unity, solidarity.